The old market stood at the far end of the town where few people liked to go, and the air always felt quiet and forgotten. Wooden stalls leaned to one side and faded signs hung loosely as if tired of staying there. Early sunlight touched the ground, but did not bring warmth to that place. Vendors sat silently waiting for customers who rarely came. In one small corner behind a broken table stood a narrow cage. Inside the cage was a small dog with thin legs and dull brown fur. His ribs showed clearly, and his eyes looked tired but calm. He did not bark or move much. He only sat and watched the ground, as if expecting nothing. A piece of paper was tied to the cage with rough string, and written on it were simple words saying the dog was for sale for $1. People passing by noticed the sign and laughed softly. Some shook their heads and whispered that the dog was too weak and not worth time. Others looked once and walked away without stopping. The seller sat on a chair nearby and stared into space. He did not call out or try to convince anyone. He looked like someone who had already given up. The dog lifted his head once in a while when footsteps came near, but soon lowered it again when people passed without care. Far from the noise of the town center, a small boy named Sam walked slowly toward the market. Sam was young and thin, and wore shoes that had seen many days. His shirt was clean but old, and his hair fell over his forehead. He had been sent by his mother to buy bread, but he carried only a few coins in his pocket. Sam liked to walk slowly because he liked to look at things others ignored. He noticed broken walls, small plants growing between stones, and old objects with stories inside them. When Sam reached the market, he felt a strange pull toward the quiet corner. His steps slowed even more as his eyes fell on the small cage. He saw the dog sitting alone, and something inside him tightened. Sam moved closer and stood in front of the cage. The dog raised his head and looked at the boy. Their eyes met, and the noise of the market seemed to fade away. Sam felt his heart beat faster, though he did not know why. He saw the sign with the price, and read it again in his mind. $1 was all he had. Sam remembered his mother waiting at home and the bread he was supposed to bring back. He also remembered nights when he felt lonely while others slept and mornings when no one noticed him. The dog blinked slowly and stayed still. There was no fear in his eyes, only patience. Sam knelt down without thinking and placed his hand near the cage. The dog moved his nose closer and sniffed the air. His tail did not move, but his eyes softened. Sam smiled slightly and whispered words that no one else heard. He told the dog he was not alone. The seller finally noticed the boy and looked up with tired eyes. He asked softly if Sam wanted something. Sam stood up and reached into his pocket. He counted the coins again slowly. His fingers trembled as he placed them on the table. The sound of metal echoed louder than expected. Sam looked at the seller and said he wanted the dog. The seller stared for a moment as if unsure. He then nodded and stood up slowly. People nearby stopped and watched. Some were curious and some were amused. The seller opened the cage door without ceremony. The dog did not rush out. He stepped forward carefully, as if afraid the ground might disappear. Sam crouched again and waited. The dog walked toward him and stopped close. Sam placed his hand on the dog's head gently. The fur felt rough but warm. The dog leaned into the touch and closed his eyes. A quiet breath escaped his body. The crowd around them grew silent. Sam took off his light jacket and wrapped it around the dog without thinking. The jacket was too big for the dog, but it covered him fully. The dog did not resist. He pressed closer to Sam and sat beside him. The seller stepped back and returned to his chair. He looked away, as if something inside him had shifted. Sam stood up slowly, and the dog stood with him. There was no rope or leash between them, yet the dog stayed close. Sam began to walk toward the exit of the market. The dog followed step by step. People made space as they passed. No one spoke. Some felt a tight feeling in their chest and did not know why. A woman touched her face and wiped her eyes. A man lowered his head in silence. Sam walked steadily, holding his jacket around the dog. He did not look back. He only focused on the path ahead and the quiet breathing beside him. The market returned to its usual noise once they were gone, but something had changed. The empty cage remained in the corner, and the paper sign fluttered gently until it fell to the ground. Sam walked away from the market with slow, careful steps, and the dog stayed close beside him as if they had always belonged together. The street outside the market was long and dusty, and people moved around them without speaking. The dog kept his head low, but his steps slowly became stronger with each moment. Sam looked down once and smiled when he saw the dog still there. He felt a quiet happiness that he had never felt before. The jacket around the dog slipped slightly, and Sam stopped to adjust it gently. The dog did not move away, and instead leaned closer as if trusting the boy fully. As they walked farther, the noise of the market faded, and the sounds of the town slowly returned. Small shops opened their doors and people talked in low voices. Some noticed the boy and the dog and paused to watch. A few whispered to each other and pointed softly. Sam did not notice them because his mind was full of thoughts. He wondered if the dog was hungry and if his mother would understand. He also wondered why his heart felt so calm even though he knew he might be in trouble. The dog lifted his head and looked around with new curiosity. His eyes moved from house to house and his ears listened carefully to every sound. A cart passed by and made a loud noise, but the dog did not panic. He stayed close to Sam and continued walking. The road toward Sam's home curved gently and led through a quieter part of town. Trees lined the path and leaves fell slowly with the breeze. Sam stopped near a small water tap and cupped his hands. He filled them with water and offered it to the dog. The dog sniffed first and then drank carefully. Water spilled onto the ground, but the dog kept drinking until he was done. Sam laughed softly and felt relief. He used the edge of his shirt to wipe the dog's mouth. The dog wagged his tail slowly for the first time, and Sam noticed. His smile grew wider, and his eyes shone. They continued walking and soon reached a small house with worn walls and a narrow door. Sam paused at the entrance and took a deep breath. He opened the door slowly and stepped inside. The dog followed without hesitation. Inside the house was simple but warm. A small table stood in the center and light came through a window. Sam's mother stood near the stove and turned when she heard the door. She saw Sam first and then the dog. Her hands froze in place and her face showed surprise. Sam stood still and waited. The dog sat beside him quietly and looked at the woman. She walked closer and knelt down slowly. Her eyes met the dog's tired eyes and something softened inside her. She reached out her hand and the dog leaned forward gently. She touched his head and felt the rough fur. She looked at Sam and asked where the dog came from. Sam spoke honestly and told her everything. He spoke about the market, the cage, and the $1. He spoke about how the dog looked lonely and how he could not walk away. His voice was calm but firm. His mother listened without interrupting. When he finished speaking, the room felt quiet. The dog rested his head on the floor and closed his eyes. Sam's mother stood up and walked to the small cupboard. She took out a bowl and filled it with leftover food. She placed it on the floor near the dog. The dog opened his eyes and looked at Sam as if asking permission. Sam nodded and the dog ate slowly. Every movement was careful, as if he was afraid the food might disappear. Sam's mother watched closely and felt her heart ache. She had little to give, but she saw the need in front of her. After the dog finished eating, he lay down near the wall and sighed deeply. His body relaxed for the first time in a long while. Sam sat beside him and gently rested his hand on the dog's back. The dog did not move away. Outside the sun began to set, and the room filled with soft light. Neighbors passed by and some noticed the dog through the open door. Word slowly spread through the street. People whispered about the boy and the $1 dog. Some were curious and some were touched. That night Sam lay on his mat near the dog. The dog shifted closer and rested his head near Sam's feet. Sam closed his eyes, feeling safe and full. The dog stayed awake for a while, listening to the sounds of the house. When he felt certain that this place was real, he closed his eyes too. Outside the town continued its usual rhythm, but inside that small house something had changed forever. Morning light entered the small house gently, and Sam opened his eyes slowly as he felt warmth near his feet. The dog was still there, lying quietly and breathing softly. Sam smiled and sat up carefully so he would not disturb him. The dog opened his eyes and lifted his head when he saw Sam awake. His tail moved slowly and tapped the floor. Sam felt joy rise in his chest, and he whispered a greeting. Sam's mother entered the room carrying a small bowl of water. She placed it near the dog and watched as he drank calmly. She noticed how his eyes looked clearer than before. The dog finished drinking and stood up, stretching his thin legs. He walked a few steps and did not stumble. Sam's mother nodded quietly to herself. Sam went outside to wash his face, and the dog followed him closely. Neighbors noticed them and paused in their morning routines. Some greeted Sam and smiled at the dog. Others looked surprised and curious. The dog stayed close and calm even when new voices surrounded him. Sam felt proud without knowing why. Later that morning, Sam and the dog walked through the street together. The dog walked with more confidence now, and his steps were steadier. People stopped to watch them pass. A shop owner stepped outside and offered a piece of bread. Sam thanked him and shared it with the dog. The dog ate gently and wagged his tail. More people gathered slowly, drawn by the quiet scene. Someone asked Sam where he got the dog. Sam answered honestly and spoke about the market and the $1. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others felt a strange warmth in their hearts. A man stepped forward and offered to buy the dog for much more money. Sam looked at him and shook his head. He said the dog was family now. The dog looked up at Sam as if he understood. The man stepped back quietly and said nothing more. Word spread quickly through the town. By afternoon, many people were talking about the boy and the dog. Some visited Sam's house bringing small gifts like food, blankets, and bowls. Sam's mother thanked them with kindness. She felt overwhelmed but grateful. The dog stayed near Sam the entire time. He watched every movement and listened to every voice. Children from the street came closer and sat on the ground. They laughed softly and spoke gently. The dog did not show fear. He allowed them to touch him and rested calmly. Sam felt happiness seeing others treat the dog with care. As the day passed, the dog grew more comfortable. He walked around the house, exploring corners and resting near the window. Sunlight touched his fur and made it look warmer. Sam's mother noticed the change and felt hope. In the evening, Sam and the dog sat outside watching the sky change color. The dog rested his head on Sam's leg. Sam spoke softly about school and dreams and small worries. The dog listened quietly. He did not understand the words but felt the feeling behind them. A gentle breeze passed and the leaves moved softly. Neighbors walked by and smiled at them. Some stopped to talk and share stories. The dog remained calm and peaceful. Later that night, Sam lay down to sleep. The dog circled the mat once and lay beside him. He rested his head close to Sam's chest. Sam felt the steady breathing and smiled. He closed his eyes, feeling safe. The dog stayed awake for a while, listening to the sounds of the house and the street. He realized he was no longer alone. When he finally slept, his body relaxed fully. Outside, the town lights dimmed and the noise faded. Inside the small house, warmth filled the space. The bond between the boy and the dog grew stronger with every quiet moment. The $1 choice had now touched many hearts and its story continued to spread. Days passed and life slowly changed inside the small house where Sam and the dog lived together. Each morning the dog woke before Sam and waited quietly beside him as if guarding his sleep. When Sam opened his eyes, the dog greeted him with calm joy and gentle movement. Sam's mother noticed how the dog now walked with strength and confidence. His fur slowly became cleaner and softer with simple care. The dog followed Sam everywhere through the house and outside into the street. Neighbors grew used to seeing them together and often smiled when they passed. Children from nearby houses began visiting more often. They brought small pieces of food and sat on the ground talking softly. The dog welcomed them with patience and trust. He never showed fear or anger. People felt safe around him. One afternoon a teacher from Sam's school passed by and stopped to watch. She saw Sam helping the dog drink water and gently wiping his face. She asked Sam about the dog and listened carefully to the story. Her eyes filled with emotion, and she placed her hand on Sam's head with pride. Soon the story of the $1 dog spread beyond the street. People from other parts of town came to see the dog and the boy. Some came out of curiosity, and others came with kindness. They brought bowls, food, and old blankets. Sam's mother thanked everyone with humility. She explained they did not expect anything. The dog watched every visitor carefully but stayed calm. He seemed to understand that this place was safe. One day the seller from the market walked slowly to Sam's house. He stood outside for a long moment before knocking. Sam's mother opened the door and recognized him. The man looked nervous and unsure. He asked if he could see the dog. Sam stepped forward with the dog beside him. The seller knelt down and looked at the dog closely. He saw bright eyes and a calm body. He felt something heavy lift from his chest. He said he never expected this outcome. He thanked Sam quietly and left without another word. As weeks passed, the dog became a symbol of hope in the town. People spoke about kindness and simple choices. They spoke about how one small act could change many lives. Sam did not think of himself as special. He only felt happy that the dog was no longer alone. One evening Sam sat outside with the dog watching the sky darken. The dog rested his head on Sam's knee and closed his eyes. Sam felt warmth and peace. He thought about the day at the market and how close he came to walking away. He realized that listening to his heart had changed everything. Sam's mother watched them from the doorway and smiled softly. She felt proud of her son and grateful for the dog. The house felt fuller and warmer than before. The dog opened his eyes and looked at Sam with deep trust. Sam gently touched his head and whispered words of comfort. The dog sighed softly and stayed still. In that quiet moment, the town around them seemed far away. The noise faded and only peace remained. As night fell, Sam and the dog went inside and lay down together. The dog stayed close just as he always did. His breathing was slow and steady. Sam closed his eyes knowing he was not alone. Outside the town continued its daily life, but inside that small home, a powerful lesson lived on. People remembered the story not because of money but because of heart. The abandoned dog sold for $1 became proof that kindness does not need wealth. It only needs courage and care. And the little boy showed everyone that sometimes the smallest hands can create the biggest change.